building an indie business in the center of venture capital. I am Alex Edmonds, also known as SupremeRumHam on the internet, and this is the Building an Indie Business podcast. Alright, so today I'm going to be discussing ethics in podcasting. I'm going to go over some general things. I'm going to be talking about each thing that a podcaster can do to promote their podcast and how not to break ethical boundaries. And then I'm going to be talking about ethics in terms of a community and running a community. Alright, first I want to mention my book about podcasting. What's the deal with podcasting? A link to it is in the show notes. You can use the promo code or discount code BAIB to get it for free as a listener of the podcast, because the book would not exist without you. So you get to read it for free, and it has extra content in it. So these are things that I didn't think about before I was writing the episode, and so I added them into the book. Okay. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so the general things about ethics for podcasting are: don't steal other people's content. If you hear something from an article or on another podcast, just reference it. Put a link to it in the show notes. Okay. Don't steal music don't put music in your podcast without having the owner's permission. So don't put anything as your intro music, your outro music. A way to avoid this is just spend the money buying your own intro music or outro music. You can get something for like $5. I know of a website that sells songs for $15, and it's a very small investment to avoiding a larger headache, because they might be able to sue you. Okay. Don't rig your stats. So don't pump up your stats, your download numbers to try to get people to listen to your podcast, or use those rigged stats to celebrate milestones so that people will see that, oh, you've 10,000 listens, maybe I should listen to it. Some people might think that way. Okay. Don't use $5 growth hackers. Okay. So there are these people on some websites that will offer to pump up your podcast stats for $5. And it's very simple. Oh no, what they're trying to do is they say, hey, I can get you in the top 200 chart for Apple Podcasts for $5. And so what they do is they create Apple accounts, Apple iTunes accounts, and then they subscribe to your podcast. And they do this 30, 40, 50 times, and that will get you in the top 200. And so that way, anyone looking at the top 200 on Apple might see your podcast. Yeah, and then the reason why you don't want to do this is because Apple might take off your podcast from their directory, and then it'd be hard to get back on. Okay. The next general tip I have, or thing about ethics I have, is don't trick people into listening to your podcast. And what I mean by this is, don't do a bait and switch. Don't say, hey, I have this guest, and then you're just talking about that guest, or something like that. It makes you look bad, and people won't recommend your podcast after that. And when you trick someone to listening to your podcast, you're not getting a listener. You're just someone listening to your podcast, but they probably won't listen to it again, and so you burn that bridge. Okay. The next thing The last general tip I have is don't spread fake news. And so what I mean by this is check your sources. Make sure what you're talking about is true, because someone might spread that news around, and it's unfortunate. Yeah. Okay. There's already enough fake news. You don't need to add to it. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So now for interviewing, the ethical thing with interviewing is cut out anything a guest asks to be cut. And you want to do this because that builds trust. When someone asks a previous guest about their experience interviewing with you as a host, they can say something positive if you didn't, if you cut out everything they asked, and that way you'll get more guests instead of burning bridges again. And just for one little thing that a guest mentioned that you really want people to hear. Okay. So for surveys, don't go overboard. And what I mean by this is don't take advantage of the people filling out your survey and ask them like 50 questions. They'll get annoyed, and they might stop listening to your podcast because you overstepped a boundary with them. And then also don't ask personal questions, or like too personal questions. Don't ask for their social security number. Don't ask, you know what I mean? Don't like ask them about their childhood. It gets to be too much at some point. You should only really be talking about the podcast and asking them questions about the podcast. Yeah. Okay. So for social media, one thing to keep in mind with social media is don't spam. And what I mean by this is so for social media, don't spam. So what I mean by this is that just because people post about content related to your podcast doesn't mean you have to promote your podcast on that post. You know what I mean? So like if someone mentions independent businesses, I don't have to go plug my podcast every time someone does that. This is spamming. It's not cool. It can get you banned on some social media platforms, or probably all of them. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of social media, obviously, so I don't really know. And it makes people not like you, and they're less likely to listen to your podcast, and so you're losing potential listeners. Okay. Email. The one thing that I would keep in mind in terms of ethics is respect the inbox. People already get a lot of email. You don't need to email them constantly every update about your podcast or your business. It gets annoying. They will unsubscribe. They might start to mark you as spam, which hurts your email list. So respect your inbox. Respect your subscribers' inboxes. Alright. So for writing, don't keyword stuff your articles. And so what keyword stuffing is, so when I think of keyword stuffing, it's having images in your blog post, and then you create an alt tag that stuffs keywords in your image. And so for those of you that don't know what an alt tag is, it's an alternative tag. And the alt tag is for screen readers. And screen readers are for people that need adaptive technology to use the computer. So it's for blind people, and for people that can't hear as well. And so when you use a screen reader, it reads everything on the screen because you can't see it. So instead of an image, it's a caption for the image. An alt tag is a caption for the image. And so some people, they will stuff keywords based on their article in that image. And it'll be an image of like someone walking up the steps, and they want to put like if I were to do, let's say I had an article about live streaming. Actually, I do. It's on the blog. Not the point right now. So let's say I had an image of someone going up the steps, or like a video game image of on a computer. So I have an image of a video game on a computer, and I have like, for the alt tag, I would have live streaming a podcast, live stream to grow your audience. That's keyword stuffing, and you shouldn't do that because that's not what the image is. You want to be inclusive and help people out that need some assistance on the computer. And 2, you don't want to do this because it hurts your SEO. Google will acknowledge the fact that you are keyword stuffing, and Google will automatically lower your rank in the search results. Okay, so for video, so when you're creating a video for your podcast, the thing to keep in mind in terms of ethics is to not mislead people to watch your videos. So this is very similar to the thing I talked about when I said, don't trick people into listening to your podcast. It's the same thing. Don't do a bait and switch for videos. Don't say, I'm comedian Bill Burr will be on in my video, and then you only talk about Bill Burr. Yeah, that's the example I should have used in podcasting. But okay. Alright, so the next one, live events. So for live events, I would say don't harass people at an event. If they don't want your sticker or whatever you're handing to them, don't follow them around and try to get them to take your sticker. For 2 reasons. Not only 2, there's so many reasons why you shouldn't do that, but I'm going to mention a few reasons. Alright, so the first reason why you shouldn't do this is because that makes you look bad. You're real life spamming someone, basically. And then this is a real life event. Like, you could run into that person at the supermarket or at another event, and then they're gonna be whispering about you. They're gonna say, "Hey, Alex, that guy over there, he harassed me at an event previously, and he kept trying to make me take his sticker for his podcast." And I was like, "Dude, I don't want to listen." And the entire time, he kept following me around trying to take his sticker, even though I didn't want it. Super annoying guy. Don't talk to him. And then no one will want to take your sticker or talk to you at the event, and everyone else will be whispering about you, and then that could snowball. Yeah, that's why you don't want to harass people at events. Okay, so for streaming, in terms of ethics, you shouldn't miscategorize your streams. You should keep your streams to be as specific as possible in your category. And the reason why you want to do this is because that is a form of tricking people. When you miscategorize on purpose to get more views, you're not getting actual viewers or loyal listeners. The streaming platforms might ban your account because you're not creating a good experience for their viewers, and they care about the viewers more than the streamers. Yes. That goes for pretty much any platform, by the way. I should have said that before. Okay. Person-on-person promotions. All I really have to say about that is honor your commitment to your P2P partner. So in that episode, I mentioned the fact that your P2P partner, you have to trust them that they will put your show in their RSS feed. And there's a chance that they might not do that. Don't be that guy who doesn't do that. Honor your commitments. When you say you're going to do something, do it. Okay. In terms of monetization, and I'm going to talk about this on both sides. So don't lie about metrics to your advertisers. Don't say you get 1,000 downloads per episode when you don't. And this is because they will find out very easily. And here's how they will find out. So they expect a certain number of clicks to their website when you advertise their unnecessary product on your podcast, their underwear subscription service. All right, I'll just say that. And so when you don't reach that number, then they will stop advertising on your podcast. All right, yeah. So let's say you have 1,000 downloads. No, let's say you say that you have 1,000 downloads per episode. So they're expecting maybe 1%, maybe 2%. So 2% of your listeners to go to their website. That's 10 people? Yeah, 10 to 20 people. All right, a low number. And so when only 5 people show up to click on their service to their website, they'll know that you don't have the numbers you say you do. First of all, they'll stop advertising immediately on your podcast, stop paying you. And then in the future, when you actually do hit those numbers, the new advertiser might want to contact an old advertiser to get an idea of what the experience is working with you. And then those underwear guys have to say, oh, he's lying about his subscription numbers. And then that new company might not want to work with you. Yeah, so that sucks. Don't do it. Okay. For listener donations, I forget what I called it. Oh, listeners pay. The listeners pay model. Sorry, I'm a little out of it today. Honor your commitments to donors. And so when you say you're going to do a Q&A or you're going to send every donor a t-shirt, do that. It looks bad when you don't. People are giving you money, their hard-earned money, and they choose to give you their money when they can give it to someone else. So just do what you're gonna do. Do what you're gonna say, especially to your donors, because that sucks when they don't. When someone doesn't fulfill their commitments, even when the other party doesn't even ask for them to. No one asks you for a t-shirt. Okay. Speaking of products, don't sell bad products. That sucks. If you're gonna write a book, hey, don't sell a book for $35 and then it's only 5 pages. That makes you look bad when you go to sell a real product, maybe like a SAS or an actual book. People will not want to buy it because they had a bad experience buying your last product, and they won't want to be burned again. Okay. All right. So the final thing I want to say is that when it comes to ethics, I think about a certain area that has a lot of venture capital money. I won't say which one. And in this area, they believe that everything is a winner-take-all market, and it's not. There can be two competitors. There can be 20 competitors. That idea of a winner-take-all market is a venture capitalist idea, and it sucks. It's horrible. So in the case of podcasting, this relates to the fact that people can listen to other people's podcasts. There's not only one podcast that they can listen to. There's not one maker's podcast. There's dozens, and they can listen to all of them and mine, not at the same time, but still. There's room for everyone. You don't need to steal someone's listeners. You don't need to hack someone's RSS feed and add your own podcast to that RSS feed. I'm not even sure if that's possible, but you can hack their account and then change out your episodes for their episodes. You don't need to do that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't even have brought that up. But you don't need to do that. Just keep that in mind, please. Okay. In terms of communities, for Open Podcast, there are at least 1 million podcasts out there right now. And that means I have the opportunity to have 1 million people join Open Podcast. I don't need that. I'm totally fine if 10,000 people want to join. Yeah, and no one else wants to join. There are multiple communities, though. Podcasting communities. These podcasters, they can join multiple communities. Again, it's not a winner-take-all market. So, if they want to join, I don't know, Podcast Open community, they can come join Open Podcast community too. I'm okay if not everyone else. Yeah. Okay. So, I'm okay if not every podcaster wants to join Open Podcast. But that doesn't mean I have to support the other podcast communities. Yeah. I'm not going to steal their members, though. I have my members. They have their members. It's fine. We might mix. It's totally fine. Yeah. I say this because I keep getting invited to podcasting communities, and I'm like, no, dude, I have my own. I have Open Podcasts. Leave me alone. Okay. Final thing to keep in terms of, what am I going to say? In terms of members and communities, don't sell your community members' data. That sucks. You can use their data to, use it yourself to improve the service and get more people to the community, but don't sell it to other people. That sucks. If you can't support yourself with 100,000 members and you need to sell their data, you suck. Dude, it's so easy to have 100,000 users or members and support yourself, write a book, ask for donations. If you can't do that, then you suck and you shouldn't have your own community. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you for listening. If you want to host your own podcast episode, you can check out come to Open Podcasts. Will talk to me about wanting to host an episode, and I'll set that up. All you need to do, send me the audio and send me what you want in the show notes. And then if you want to guest host or guest post on the blog, the Open Podcast blog, blog.openpodcast.xyz, same thing, reach out to me and I will give you author access. Okay. Thank you for listening again. Have a nice day. Bye.